This was a discussion about Newcastle, who took 24 games last season to lose 3 Premier League matches. Eddie Howe was asked how concerned he is.
I think it's one of my strengths that when things are difficult, that I don't necessarily get swayed by that emotion, and it doesn't mean that you don't care or you're not feeling it, but controlling it is a different thing, and I think that's a strength. Calm in a way that you try and make good decisions, and you see things for what they are, not for what people try and create. That's why I keep labouring the point. It's not all been bad. Yes, the results of the last three games haven't been what we want, but there's been some really good in the performances that we can't lose. Otherwise, you start again from zero. And we've built the team to a point where we've been consistent last year, and we're going to need to show that again this year. And the challenge this year is totally different to last. I'm very calm in one sense, but also anxious to succeed in another and determined to try and win football matches.
So that's Eddie Howe. Statman, you can go because I know you're off to Old Trafford, and last time you did this show you got to Old Trafford late and thought Manchester United beat Nottingham Forest 3-0 because you missed the 2 goals that Forest scored in the first 6 minutes.
They did, Mark, but that was the 31st game in an unbeaten home run, starting after the defeat against Real Sociedad.
I'm talking Newcastle. Go, right? You're off to Old Trafford. Glenn will stay with us. I'm surprised the next man is joining us because I would have thought this weekend he was going to go to Radio 2 in the Park to watch Bananarama, but John Murray is at St James's Park instead. Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Not tempted by Radio 2 in the Park in Leicester?
To be honest, I would have been more tempted by Trent Bridge today than Bananarama if I'd had the choice.
Wow, you say different things on air to what you say in private.
Yeah, you don't. You're totally consistent. Always.
Anyhow,
always. I'll tell you what I am. I'm cold inside a football ground for the first time this season.
Right, big coat time.
There's rain in the air as well.
What have you made of Newcastle's displays this season?
Murray minds think alike, because I was looking at the fixtures yesterday, just like Glenn, for Newcastle, and thinking along very similar lines. And as we discussed, in fact, when you think back, when you and I spoke at Brighton, was that 2 weeks ago? What we talked about as a possibility has come to pass, hasn't it? Because they then lost that match. Newcastle have lost 3 in a row. But similarly, I was sitting here in this position for the match against Liverpool, and when Miguel Almiron cut in from the right-hand side in the second half and hit a shot that hit the post, if that had gone in, very likely Newcastle would have won that match. And those are the fine margins, but that's where they are now. Newcastle, the expectations are so much higher, and where we were at the end of that very first match of the season against Aston Villa, talking about whether they could mount a challenge to actually win the league this season. Well, that now seems that seems back when it was very warm inside St James's Park.
Glenn, you were going to come in?
I was just going to jump in on John saying because, if City didn't win 3 trophies last year, there wouldn't be treble winners, would there?
Absolutely. It's the biggest word in football, biggest word in sport, biggest word in life.
And what gone very deep. We've gone from Bananarama to the philosophies of life, which is an interesting conversation.
Love in the third degree.
What will be interesting is the team that is selected this afternoon as they now start to manage a Champions League campaign.
Yeah, and just listening to you before we started talking, Dave talking about Callum Wilson, I wonder whether he might actually be in the starting lineup today. Obviously he's been away with England, but he has scored a couple of goals when he's come on as a substitute, and I wonder whether this might be the day that he does get his first start of the season. But another one in the Newcastle team who I think is a really interesting one is Sandro Tonali, who was simply outstanding in that first match against Aston Villa in an attacking sense. But intriguingly for me, Tonali has been substituted in all 4 matches. And, I just wonder whether Eddie Howe is not getting exactly what he wants out of him yet, and how he's going to get that from him.
That's going to take time, though, Glenn, isn't it?
Yes, it is going to take time. It's a difficult one to work out. I think some of his performances have been outstanding. Then again, I look... And by the way, we're talking about Newcastle's start to the season. I think Brighton away was probably their worst performance, which was the disappointing thing, and how much they really did get undone by Brighton. Because I think they've been in every other game. But Tonali, in that particular game, he wasn't really at the races, in all fairness. I think that's a nice way to put it. And sometimes I just wonder if it takes lads a little bit of time to get used to the Premier League. I think when you're playing Serie A and the Bundesliga, some weekends are not a weekend off, but they're much easier than others, whereas the Premier League, every weekend you need to be at it unless you're going to get punished. So maybe just a little bit of a transitional period for Tonali.
OK, John, Glenn, thank you. Glenn, thanks for everything this afternoon. John back later on alongside Pat Nevin for full commentary of Newcastle against Brentford. Newcastle against Brentford in 20 minutes. John Murray.
Newcastle are just 3 days away from a return to the Champions League, but after 3 successive defeats, their full focus has to be on unbeaten Brentford. And Eddie Howe's made a raft of changes. 4 men make their first Newcastle start of the season, including last season's top scorer Callum Wilson.
So you're up to date with all the sport so far. More reaction during half-time of our tea time game. It's just got underway. Newcastle against Brentford. John Murray.
Yes, off we go. Newcastle kicking off. Brentford immediately on the back foot, but breaking away now with Mbeumo immediately down the right hand side, but in comes the sliding tackle, and Newcastle have got possession back inside their own half. I must tell you that Tyneside is very much in the throes of autumn already, it feels today. Over 50,000 people here wrapped up warmly against the chill and watching Anthony Gordon speed away down the right hand side, but he won't reach that, and it's out of play for a throw-in to Brentford. So our next Premier League commentary here from St James's Park under a blanket of grey sky above. It is Newcastle United, who've lost their last 3 matches against Brentford without Ivan Toney, who started this season unbeaten in all competitions, although they have very much been the draw specialists. I'll run you through the teams in full. Eddie Howe's made a number of changes, 5 of them actually, so we've got 4 players starting a match for Newcastle for the first time this season. But Pat Nevin sitting alongside former Chelsea, Everton winger, Scotland international. Get a word from Pat in a moment as the ball's played up towards Callum Wilson. He's one of those 4, but Brentford and Ben Mee clear away on the edge of their own penalty area. So what about it, Pat?
Well, a really interesting big game, because we were here at the first game of the season when Newcastle were brilliant against Aston Villa. They've had 3 really tough games, good teams they've played against, and they've lost all 3 of them. They've got to get this one in the bag if they're going to come comfortably into their Champions League start against Milan.
Yes, the Champions League. It's all very well saying Newcastle's focus has got to be on the Premier League, not the Champions League today. They fly to Milan on Monday for their return to the Champions League after 20 years away. But you don't have to say that about the supporters, and we've already seen one fan with a bucket hat on which has written on it, "Have you ever seen a Mackem in Milan?" So the supporters very much looking forward to it, but Newcastle have got to focus on this, and that's what they're doing. But Anthony Gordon is dispossessed, and Brentford are able to bring it away up towards the halfway line with Janelt. These are the teams then. 5 changes for Newcastle. Pope in goal. Back 4, very familiar back 4 with Botman back in it. Trippier, Schär, Botman and Byrne. But then in midfield, Bruno Guimaraes with Sean Longstaff and Elliot Anderson. So Tonali is on the bench as Newcastle break away with Anderson up towards the edge of the penalty area. Now it's Barnes on the left-hand side. Barnes clips it across, but that's headed away by Pinnock. Comes out to the edge of the area. That was a firm challenge on the edge of the box by Wissa on Bruno Guimaraes, but no free kick. A fair challenge, says referee Craig Pawson, and Brentford bring it away. More than bring it away. Here they are on the right-hand side with Jensen, who plays it across, looking for Wissa at the back post. Important sliding clearance by Schär. It's come back for Brentford. For Jensen on the right-hand side, into the box to Hickey. Hickey shoots straight at Pope, who's able to stand up strong and make the save. But that was a real opening. Hickey from the angle, one-on-one with Newcastle goalkeeper Pope, and couldn't beat him.
I hope it keeps going at this pace. It's been absolutely brilliant from the start of the game here. Both teams attacking at full pace, trying to get ahead in this game. They look really dangerous on the break, Brentford. They have got pace up front, but good intelligence from Janelt, I think it was there as well.
And Hickey in with that opportunity. He's not yet scored for Brentford, the Scotland international, who you and I were watching at Hampden on Tuesday night, but what a chance that was.
Yeah, got himself into a good position. Strangely, a few moments before, he'd gone forward. He's wing back at the moment in this back 5 that they've got just now, and he went forward, and Thomas Frank shouted him to get back right in front of us here. He kind of ignored them and kept on going forward and almost scored.
It was a sort of chest-high shot from the angle, right side of the box, and Pope just stood up tall, flung out a right arm, and it was blocked by that right arm. Ball over the top from Burmo. Pope comes out of the penalty area, heads it away. He had to time that correctly, but he did. Nick Pope, who, remember, was at fault for the first goal that Brighton scored a fortnight ago. And now at the other end, the Brentford goalkeeper Flecken has to come out of the penalty area and clear it out for a throw down the left-hand side. So Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0. This is 5 Live from the BBC. Listen as well on BBC Sounds. The choice of listening right now features the Wales-Portugal Rugby Union World Cup match, kicked off at 4:45 UK time. Chris Jones is there in Nice.
Half-time, Wales 14, Portugal 3. Dowie Lake, the captain, has powered over from close range to calm some nerves around the stadium here. Loads of Welsh fans in. Portugal have been terrific. They could have had more than 3 points. They've run it from everywhere and been so entertaining. Half-time, Wales 14, Portugal 3.
But also the one-day cup final that's taking place at Trent Bridge. Hampshire are chasing 268 to beat Leicestershire. And that could be an extraordinary win for Leicestershire, bearing in mind they were 19 for 4. If you want to listen to that, you can find it via the cricket pages of the BBC Sport website. Gordon for Newcastle, deep cross from the right-hand side. He's on the right, Barnes is on the left. That's the rest of the Newcastle lineup. Barnes coming in for his first league start for Newcastle. Gordon on the right-hand side with Wilson through the middle and Isak among the substitutes. So Tonali's on the bench, Isak's on the bench. Joel Linton's not involved at all. He's been to Brazil and back, just like Bruno Guimaraes, but he's not among the substitutes. And Tonali did pick up a minor injury with Italy, but I don't know. I wonder whether Longstaff might have come in any case for Newcastle for this match.
It must be a temptation, obviously, losing 3 games. Again, underlined there were 3 good teams they played against. By the way, that trip to Brazil for those Brazilian players, I worked it out the other day, 15,000 miles they travelled.
Yeah, the World Cup qualifiers, they won both of them. Brazil off to a flying start. Bruno Guimaraes started them both. And the Brentford team, Flecken in goal, the Dutch goalkeeper, he played in both of their qualifiers. And then Collins coming in, the record signing. So 3 central defenders for Brentford, Collins, Pinnock and Mee. And then Hickey on the right, Henry on the left. In the central areas, Norgard, the captain, Jan Elton Jensen, and then Mbeumo and Wissa up front. So Sharda on the bench for Brentford for this one. Just the one change Thomas Frank made.
I should apologise to you and the listeners when you brought up the Scotland-England game a moment ago. I just moved on swiftly.
I noticed that. Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0. And here is Ben Mee at the back for Brentford. Brentford in blue today, pale blue shirts, dark blue shorts and pale blue socks. Newcastle, of course, black and white stripes here at St James's. Goes back to Flecken, the goalkeeper. Gets it onto his right foot and clears from the 6-yard box. Botman comes forward, heads it back over the halfway line, and then it bounces out of play for what is given by the assistant as a throw-in to Brentford and for Jensen with his hair tied back by a thin white headband. Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0. If you've just switched on, if you've been at any of the matches this afternoon, we'll round up everything and have more interviews at half-time in this match. But it is Brentford who have it with Janelt. Just touches it to his left to Ben Mee, and then Janelt again, and Norgard goes back into central defence. And actually it finds its way all the way back to goalkeeper Flecken, who pulls the ball onto his right foot and chips it out towards, looking for Hickey, but that's headed out of play by Dan Burn, back at left back after he was in central defence at Brighton. And it's a throw in to Brentford, who have, as I say, they are unbeaten, but their only win so far in the league was the 3-0 win at Fulham in their only Premier League away match so far. So that is 3 draws out of 4 in the league for Brentford, who also came through after a draw with Newport in the Carabao Cup, winning that one on penalties. So free kick for Brentford on the halfway line, and it is played forward, right-footed by Jensen towards the edge of the penalty area. And Burmo is battling for that. 4 goals for him so far this season. And then it is deflected out of play for a throw into Newcastle on the far side. 8 minutes played, 0-0 here.
One of the most intriguing things about Newcastle is watching the way Barnes is working with Elliot Anderson so far now. As we're watching it just now, Barnes has just sat out in the left wing there, but they're splitting it and it's allowing Anderson to go much further forward than the other midfielders, and they keep on switching it. It's a really interesting little technique that they're doing just now, and it's really confusing for the Brentford defenders. I like what they're trying to do here. Not quite worked for them yet and created anything but it does look an interesting tactic.
And Elliot Anderson's putting pressure on Hickey here, and that is judged to have been a foul by Longstaff, who arrived on the scene and fouled Hickey. And Newcastle have complained about that, and referee Pawson is just going to pause things. So that is Elliot Anderson, who was in the Scotland squad, Pat, but had to pull out with a knock that he picked up, and some discussion ahead of the game as to whether he would remain with Scotland or whether England might be interested.
Well, a lot of Scots were watching, saying, well, wait a minute, if you're pulled out with an injury, you won't be fit for Saturday, will you?
Well, it appears he is. So it is 0-0, ball played forward by Jensen, and Burmo makes the run down into the full-back position, and Burmo's taken Share right out there with him. The ball played infield. This is very comfortable from Brentford as it's played forward to Burmo, who plays it back across the penalty area, but Gordon arrived for Newcastle to sweep it away left-footed, but dangerous. Nathan Collins very much involved there. Collins coming up from the back and into the penalty area actually, and if Burmo had been able to pick him out, that would have been a real opportunity.
Well, beautiful, an all one-touch play all the way up the right-hand side. Most of the best plays actually happened on the left-hand side for Newcastle and the right-hand side for Brentford, so right in front of you now.
But so comfortable, Brentford there. Just the one change for them today. Thomas Frank's team, they look very, very comfortable together. Long throw. The Newcastle supporters are suggesting that the referee should be onto Jensen for his delay in taking that. But he delayed, then finally took it. Now Henry on the right-hand side, left-footed ball right across the penalty area. Wissa pulls away, played back to Pinnock in the box. Then the shot from Norgard, that was blocked by a defender inside the penalty area. And Brentford looking good here, 0-0. Newcastle under pressure.
Yeah, real belief when they do go forward. Brentford, yeah, they've got a back five, but the wing backs will go forward every opportunity. And also the midfielders trying to get into the box there. They've had a good couple of minutes there, a couple of little half chances, but play it intelligent in one touch, particularly in this right hand side.
Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0. BBC Radio 5 Live. Brentford again enjoying the possession. Wissa then back out to Ben Mee. Ben Mee tries to go around Gordon, who puts the pressure on him, but Wissa plays it back down the left, looking for Henry. Newcastle were able to clear through Share, comes back, and now it's played across the edge of the penalty area by Henry. Brentford win it back, and then Jensen across the area to the right hand side, and Burmo is there. He's up against Burm and gets the cross in, which he sliced behind. I thought it might have come off the toe of Burm, but instead it is actually a goal kick to Brentford, who've started very, very well here.
They certainly have. He was calling over to the referee and then looks back at the assistant referee. He said, no, I'm right behind it. I can see that's a goal kick, just a poor cross. But all the play up until then, you notice how high the Brentford, they were closing down in the opposition 18-yard line, stroke 20 yards out. That's a lot of high pressing, a lot of hard work they're putting in, but then Brentford always do.
And what's interesting here is that, to me, it sounds like quite a nervous St James's Park. And just as Pat was speaking there, the Gallagate managed to get the crowd going a little, but this is very, very different to the atmosphere after the first match of the season. You and I have virtually got mini season tickets here, haven't we, so far this season? We've seen all three matches here, and there is a very different atmosphere with Brentford dominating against a Newcastle team that has lost its last three matches.
Well, yeah, against Liverpool, I think Newcastle did very well, particularly in the first half, but you just couldn't keep it going at that level. That's the thing about the Premier League. If we've got a few moments later, I think this is the most extraordinary season I've ever known for late goals being scored, and important winning late goals being scored. And if you're a team like Newcastle who are beginning to fade late in games, that is not a good thing.
Yeah, tell that to Sheffield United's supporters who might be listening. Crystal Palace's fans, late goals in Tottenham, and Aston Villa's wins earlier this afternoon. The big story really, Manchester United's 3-1 defeat at home to Brighton, but Newcastle with Gordon playing the ball in towards the edge of the penalty area, but straight into the path of Collins, who was able to calmly pass it away. Comes back to Collins, who hooks it away, bounces near the centre circle. Byrne jumps for that. Burmo is claiming that he was fouled by Byrne towering over him, and Newcastle go through Botman back to Nick Pope, who pulls the ball onto his right foot and plays it out to Kieran Trippier on the right hand side. Trippier, who started the match at left back for England at Hampden the other evening, ball played forward, but Pinnock is able to see it back to his goalkeeper, and Flecken clears with his right foot over the halfway line. As we always say with coming into matches like this, in terms of the record between the two sides. Brentford have not got a good record here, but that's all historical. And this Brentford side are very different. And now it's played across by Wissa, and then Hickey gets it back centrally from Norgard, pulls it back onto his left foot, although they did lose 5-1 here last season, Brentford. However, this looks like a very confident Brentford team that have turned up here today. Long pass from the halfway line, Pinnock, it bounces for Hickey on the right wing. Hickey tries to go past a combination of Barnes and Byrne, and he's still going against Byrne, and Hickey now holding it near the corner flag, and Barnes has to come back in and help out Byrne, and I think he has managed to put it out of play off the Brentford man for a throw into Newcastle in their own left back position. But Newcastle simply haven't got going.
They haven't, and you look at Hickey who's the wing back, he is really pushing this left hand side of Newcastle I was talking about earlier on. We're going to see if we're going to see Elliot Anderson obviously and Barnes together, but Hickey is pushing them the other direction. Very interesting player, Hickey. I mean, there's a right wing back there, but every opportunity he'll get it on his left foot or right foot, he doesn't seem to care. Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0. Ben Mees being put under pressure by Gordon, but manages to stand up strong as you'd expect, and then the players brought back for a foul on Rico Henry halfway inside the Brentford half, so a free kick to the visitors, still 0-0. So at half time I'm sure we'll have more from Old Trafford, where Manchester United lost for the first time at home in 32 matches in all competitions, but it was against Brighton, who are almost irresistible just now. But the other big story, Manchester City coming from a goal down in our earlier 3 o'clock commentary match, and eventually winning 3-1 against West Ham, so that is 5 wins out of 5 now for the defending Premier League champions. Wales 14, Portugal 3 is the half-time score, and earlier Samoa 43, Chile 10 it finished. Tonight on Sports Extra there's commentary on the Ireland game, the Ireland-Tonga match on BBC Sounds. So here Newcastle come forward. Harvey Barnes, having come on as a substitute in all 4 matches so far since his move in the summer from relegated Leicester City. Now back to Longstaff. Newcastle with Cher. Trippier now receives it on his right foot over there on the far side in front of the east stand. Floodlights shining down up towards Gordon, who gets the ball back from Wilson, plays it in towards the edge of the penalty area, but that's cleared. Comes out to Barnes again, gets his foot onto it, rolls his foot over it. He's got Dan Byrne on the outside, then Byrne back into Anderson in the box. Nice change of feet. Anderson taking on Collins, low ball into the near post and a stretch to clear it away by Jensen on the corner of the 6-yard box. Comes back for Newcastle. The supporters in the Leazes end feel that Hickey was fouling Barnes there, but Newcastle don't get the free kick, keep possession. Bruno Guimaraes drives it in, but straight into the gloves of Flecken, who makes a comfortable catch. But once again, John, Elliot Anderson, he keeps on taking these really unusual positions up, and he got the ball there in the box and he almost got the cross in, but they're finding it very hard. He's the only player that's really causing major problems to that Brentford defence at the moment, because he's taking up such really intelligent half positions.
So Brentford get the ball rolling again, and Ben Mees already over the halfway line tries to find the run of Henry down the left hand side, but it comes back towards the halfway line. Rico Henry's another player, yet another full back come wing back, who frequently is mentioned by Gareth Southgate. As the ball comes back towards the halfway line, I was listening earlier to 5 Live Sport, the discussion about Konsa. Maybe it won't be too long before he gets a chance in the England squad this season, but here come Brentford and Mbeumo. It's cleared away back to Mbeumo. Now Mbeumo on the right, and he's got that all wrong on his right foot as well, and it's the second one that he's sliced wide from near the dead ball line, and it's a goal kick.
Alright, I have to explain that. It's that ancient one where you go to try and kick it, but you tap it with your left foot first and it moves the ball away for you. It's the sort of thing you're embarrassed to do when you're about 7. So I don't think he's laughing actually. We're close up in the view here, but that's not what a pro footballer wants to be seen done.
No. Well, I'm sure he'll put that behind him very quickly. Newcastle 0, Brentford 0, coming into this weekend's matches. Only Haaland had scored more goals than Mbeumo in the Premier League this season, as the rain begins to come down on St James's Park. I was reliably informed earlier that it would be staying dry during the course of the match.
Who reliably informed?
But that's disproved. There's also sent a message from West Ham, from our engineer Rob, who was at that match while we were sitting shivering here in round about 12-13 degrees, that it was 26 degrees at West Ham this afternoon, brackets, but it feels like 29. That's the north-south divide right there. Here's Botman, now to Byrne. Newcastle attacking towards the Leazes end in the first half, so it'll be Gallagate in the second, as they like to do. Barnes weaving from one side to the other. Barnes taking on Hickey. I think the ball might have run out of play. No, it's not. And then Hickey puts in the challenge. It bounces off the corner flag and out for a throw-in. And also a suggestion was that Hickey was pulling the shirt of Barnes there, but no free kick again has been noted by the Newcastle fans, and then actually the substitutes as well down there. The Newcastle substitutes who are warming up.
Yeah, we shouldn't be listening to him. Oddly enough, the substitutes look like the assistant referee and the referee. Same top, orange and black.
Good point. Yeah, as Newcastle with Bruno Guimaraes played into the near post, but Pinnock on the stretch is able to clear it away. Hickey gets his head to it, nods it forward, clears it away, headed back by Botman. Longstaff, they wanted him to shoot, he plays it square to Trippier. Trippier drags the ball back and then goes back into the centre circle. 0-0, 20 minutes played, first 20 minutes of this latest Premier League match here at St James's Park. Contrasting fortunes this season. The emphatic 5-1 win over Aston Villa, then the defeat to the late goals against Liverpool, and then Harvey Barnes is fouled by Jensen, and that is a free kick for Newcastle on the left.
Well, first look at it, I thought it looked a little bit lucky, but he was clipped a little bit in the back of his ankle and fell over, but it's a very dangerous position.
So Kieran Trippier, of course, is going to come across to take it. So Newcastle have now settled into the match and are beginning to put some pressure on Brentford. Trippier waiting to take this, so from the left hand side, it's 2 or 3 steps in from the left touchline. So Trippier just looks over his shoulder and will swing it in towards goalkeeper Flecken, which he does to the near post, but he's got it all wrong. Really poor actually from Trippier, who can provide such quality from that sort of position. And Norgard just said thanks very much and volleyed it out of play on the halfway line.
It's so unlike him. It's one of those ones where if you put it in the angle, if he would have taken a right-footed shot from there, it would have been a brilliant and difficult one, but you've got to beat the first player, and he didn't even get over knee height.
So 0-0. Newcastle lose possession from the throw, hence the groans. Burmo, and then out to the right hand side to Jensen, who pulls that down, swings over the cross to the back post. Big chance for Wissa. There was a defender there, he was stretching for it, but couldn't direct it goalwards, and it is deflected away out to the far side.
Well, he's asking for a penalty kick. That's what he's asking for. He thinks he's pushed a little bit. To be honest, I think he's gone with his left foot, because he should be able to go on the end of this. He's got plenty of time there.
Chance.
He stutters before he actually takes the hit at it, but he's complaining, feeling that it was pushed, that's put him off balance. I don't think there's anything in that. I think that's just a bad miss.
Yeah. Took a little deflection, the cross from Jensen, which dropped it into the path of Wissa, who was stretching for it, but big chance, big miss, and it's given us a corner. So a corner for Brentford.
That's interesting. One player up, no defenders back. That is extraordinary, Anthony Gordon. I haven't seen that for years.
However, they suddenly realise, and Anthony Gordon backpedals towards the halfway line, as Brentford very quickly sent...
it's still 1v1.
Yeah, it is 1v1. They sent Gordon up, and so Henry quickly got back. Here is the corner then from the left for Brentford, headed away by Byrne. Oh, a heavy touch by Pinnock, and that's straight behind for a goal kick.
That was really interesting what happened. I know the corner and everyone's watching that, but you've got 1 against 1 left at the back. It's so unusual to do that.
So Newcastle now, the Geordies beginning to find their voices, but Newcastle come back into central defence. This midweek we will be with Newcastle in Milan 3 days from now, so I presume they'll be flying on Monday, Newcastle, for their first experience in the Champions League group stage for 20 years. 20 years ago It was March 2003 that they were involved. They lost here against Barcelona in the old days of the 2 group stages. So that was in the second group stage, which went on after Christmas. That, the last involvement. And so we will be there. We'll be in Milan, in San Siro, with a commentary from 5:45. Ian Dennis and a certain Pat Nevin will be there with them. So don't miss it.
Yeah, I think Newcastle think I'm just following them everywhere they go just now, but they're enjoyable to watch a lot of the time. Talking about that one-on-one, just, you know, if you're listening, Gordon had gone back and then he realised there was nobody, not a single Brentford player within 80 yards of their own goal, so he just ran up the pitch. One player goes back to mark him, and it was Henry that went back, and that's a deliberate thing. It's really unusual for that to happen. Obviously you usually get one in front, one behind, but what they've done, they thought about it beforehand. Flecken became the other defender and moved out. So Thomas Frank, he's always got something new, hasn't he?
He has. And what of course will be interesting is to see if and when they get a second corner, what they do there.
Yeah.
Ball up towards Wilson in the centre circle. Callum Wilson starting for Newcastle for the first time this season. I think it was coming, with Isak having scored 2 in the first match against Villa. Wilson has scored 2, coming on as a substitute this season, but of course finished last season in such great goal-scoring form. Newcastle back to the halfway line. Longstaff then up towards the halfway line, and Bruno Guimaraes now. All of that blonde has finally been washed out of his hair, so he looks slightly different again. And now he has Gordon, still very much blonde, down the right-hand side, taking on Henry. Henry did well, recovered well, so Gordon has to cut back on his right foot into the penalty area on the right-hand side. A flick by Bruno Guimaraes. Gordon with a touch. Gordon still skipping across the edge of the D. Barnes got a little toe in there as well, so Newcastle still in possession. Square from him to Longstaff. Now Barnes again, and then Longstaff 30 yards out. Square, Bruno Guimaraes out to the right hand side. Trippier's involved again. Bruno Guimaraes turns onto his right foot. Little pass to Trippier. Brentford have got everyone behind the ball. Still 0-0 if you've just switched onto us on 5 Live. If you've been out and about at any of the various sporting events this afternoon, or indeed watching the FA Cup, lots and lots of FA Cup matches this afternoon, you might want to talk to them if you've seen something remarkable to Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton on 606 later, which hasn't grabbed the national headlines. Ball's played up to Barnes, who's leaned into, goes down and wins a free kick on the left hand side, which Newcastle actually are going to take quickly. They do. Bruno Guimaraes now out to the right hand side. Trippier takes that down. Trippier's ball up towards near the edge of the penalty area, which Longstaff gives back to Trippier, and now Bruno Guimaraes through the middle. Burn to the left hand side to Barnes. Barnes attacking Hickey, corner of the penalty area. Nice footwork from him, but Brentford have got 3 men back in there, almost 4 actually, and so Newcastle have to recycle it and go back centrally, and they want Cher to shoot from 25 yards, which he does, which took a deflection, which took the pace off it, and the ball skittered across the surface of the grass 6 yards wide, but it is a corner.
Yeah, good control play by Newcastle. They're probing, trying to find some sort of gap, but it's hard to find a gap because there's so little organised Brentford. They'll throw everyone up for a corner, but when they lose the ball, it's 5, 3 right in front of them, and the 2 strikers right in front of them. Hard to find a gap.
So, set piece chance for Newcastle. Trippier, the outswinger towards the penalty spot, which is headed down and across, and then nodded forward. Barnes got in there, but didn't get a clear header on it. It bounced up and was cleared away. It was actually Bruno Guimaraes at the back post, and it was cleared away off the line. The effort from Bruno Guimaraes.
I'm hoping it was Flecken that did it, because he's got in a position there. He's got to get. It is a good save by Flecken. He's made sure he made himself big, but he should still score. Best chance of the game so far.
Yep. Clearest chance. Big chance for Wissa at one end, but that was clearer for Bruno Guimaraes. Latest corner into the back post. Burn with a header. That's blocked. Brentford are able to scramble it away. Collins it was who blocked the header, and on the follow-up he wallops it away downfield, and Nick Pope is just allowing it to roll out of play for a Newcastle throw.
Well, you know, Byrne is a tall man, but how often really do you see him rising at the back post like that, unchallenged completely? Does everything technically right, heads it downwards towards the goal, but there's the defender in his way, and that's, again, Brentford, they just get the bodies back there and make sure they make it difficult. But 2 really decent chances, one extraordinarily good chance and one pretty decent chance within a minute for Newcastle.
Yeah, Bruno Guimaraes back to his natural brown hair, arriving and stretching, but could only head it really at Flecken, who was able to make the save on the goal line. One thing I'm looking forward to Newcastle in the Champions League this season, when I commentate on them, is the fact that under UEFA rules, you'll have to actually be able to see the numbers on the backs of their shirts. As the ball's played forward to Wissa, who was in an offside position. So Newcastle have a free kick. You never know. Once they see, when people are able to see their numbers, they might do it for all of their matches.
That'd be
nice
for one or two people, particularly yourself.
Let me just say, Pat, by the way, while it is still 0-0, that last season these were the two teams in the Premier League who drew more matches than any other, 14 each. And it is currently all square. Barnes playing it forward to Wilson, but Pinnock will get there first, and with his left foot roll it back to Flecken, who clears to the halfway line, but back to Newcastle. And then Anderson does well. He was tripped by Norgard but regained his feet, and now Barnes plays it across. Flecken got a touch to it, and that touch took it away from Gordon. Otherwise that could have been the opening goal. In now from Trippier, headed away by Pinnock. Comes out for Newcastle. Newcastle have now asserted their authority on the game. They are now on top after Brentford's good first 15 minutes. However, Brentford, who can counter-attack incredibly effectively, are doing just that. Wissa didn't play the pass to Mbeumo, who'd made the run, and now he's still got it at his feet and then misplaces his pass straight at Trippier. So Newcastle break forward. Gordon to Wilson. Wilson away from Pinnock. Pinnock recovers well. Gets a touch. Takes it out into the full-back position. Wilson, though, is there first for Newcastle. He's up against Pinnock again near the dead ball line. He's got support from behind him, from Longstaff and from Trippier as well. Trippier back to Longstaff on the right. One touch, right-footed cross, header over the top from just outside the 6-yard box from Callum Wilson, and it's a goal kick for Brentford. 0-0, Pat Nevin.
Yeah, two brilliant moments in a row there, and you'd say Wissa and Werner, they should have manufactured a chance there. You're absolutely spot on. Everyone in this ground could see it. If he played the ball at the right time, he was through, 100% through, 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, and he just waited. However, just before that on the left-hand side, I mentioned right at the start of the game the understanding between Elliot Anderson and Barnes, and they shredded that Brentford defence there with a really good understanding run. I'm going to say a weird thing here. Dan Burns on the left-hand side, don't go up on the left-hand side. Leave Barnes and Anderson to do it himself. Every time he runs in there, he kills the space. So when you're going to go up when there's a chance of a header or whatever, but don't kill the space there, because those two look great together.
Just got a stoppage here. Newcastle man is down. Cher, who's taken a knock, so the physios are going to come on and give him some treatment. In that one-day cup final, by the way.
Before you go in here, he could be in trouble.
Wissa.
Honestly, I'd look at that again. That was very close to being deliberate.
So
elbow into the face, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, they might have got a yellow card already there.
Yeah, yellow
but that's
card.
one of those ones where it could have been worse.
Craig Pawson has got the yellow card out, and I can see him talking away, so VAR will be talking to him.
I think they will.
Well, the discussion is still going on. Cher is still down, having taken that knock. The players have come across to this side of the field to have a swig or two of water. We're just about to see it again.
Well, he's given the yellow, fair enough, right? And they'll be thinking about the red. They'll be looking about the possible red. It's one of the very few occasions that you'll ever see slow motion making it look not as bad. Usually slow motion makes it look worse. This time slow motion makes it look a little bit less vicious. He's got a worried look in his face, Visser.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it's going to go any further. In the one-day cup final, Hampshire need 25 to win from 2.5 overs, 24 from 2.5 overs with 3 wickets remaining. So that could be really tight. And that is, the commentary is on the website, BBC Sport website and app via the cricket pages. Cher looks as though that will be it. No further action, but I think I'll make a note of that. Pat, might be something to be discussed later. Cher.
He's really unhappy with that, isn't he? Because
he is.
He's still cut. He got it right in the face. you don't often see that deliberate move, and it did seem deliberate movement towards, and it's not an elbow he got straight in the face, it was more wrist when it came there. Had the elbow caught him in the face, he could have been walking.
At half-time on 5 Live, after the afternoon results, we're going to hear from Erik ten Hag, the Manchester United manager, after their 3-1 defeat at home to Brighton. We'll hear from Ange Postecoglou after Tottenham's late show to beat Sheffield United. We'll hear from their manager as well, Paul Heckingbottom. So Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0. Paul Heckingbottom apparently is very unhappy with the referee's performance, or the official's performance. So more on that to come at half-time. If you're a Sheffield United supporter, stay tuned. 10 minutes to the break, or at least 10 minutes of the 45 left to play. Cher is back up. He's waiting to come on the far side of the field. So Newcastle currently with 10 men, and Brentford attacking, but Trippier is able to head that away, and Cher is waved back onto the field. They have to stay off, don't they, this season for 30 seconds, as Bruno Guimaraes breaks away from the halfway line, plays it forward to Wilson, out to the right hand side though. Wilson turns and faces Henry, who just got a foot in on that, and Newcastle have it again near the halfway line. From right to left it comes for the home team. Harvey Barnes takes this down. The £38 million acquisition from Leicester City. Now Elliot Anderson, one of their own from Wallsend Boys Club, the famous Wallsend Boys Club. The now 20-year-old Elliot Anderson. Ooh, that was Ben Mee sliding in there with the challenge on the far side. It was the challenge from behind. It wasn't out of control, but it's certainly given us a free kick.
I suspect he actually got the ball as well. But when you go to ground and you slide in like that, you catch ball and you catch player. I actually think he gets player just first with his knee, and then gets the ball quite clean after that. But the referee's right, let it play on for a moment or two. But we'll go back to the player getting off injured in a moment, just because there's something I absolutely do not understand about it.
Okay, yep, I think I know where you're going to go with that as well.
Exactly.
But free kick to the right. I mean, anyway, we'll come to that in a moment. We've got to watch this free kick. Gordon is over there with Trippier, of course, so it's out about halfway inside the half. Touch from Gordon, then Trippier actually takes it on, gives it back to Gordon, who made his run into the full-back position, but Henry was sharp and was able to come across and deflect it behind for what he's given as a corner for Newcastle from the right.
Really surprised they left it 2-1 out there. When you've got somebody at the pace of Gordon, you're just going to give it to him from Trippier. You don't leave 2-1 against that sort of pace. So they've got a corner out of it. It could have been more.
Going to get an update on the Wales World Cup match in a moment, but here's the corner. Trippier swings it in. Pinnock got it well, headed it away, and it comes out. Fierce shot from Barnes from 30 yards, but it was blocked at source. Bruno Guimaraes now on the left with Byrne. Bruno Guimaraes, Hickey in front of him, then back to Bruno Guimaraes again. Little pass forward, and then Anderson plays it infield to Cher, and Cher carries it forward. They wanted him to shoot, but he was quickly closed down by 2 Brentford men. Trippier plays it in, stretching it from Wilson, who was twisting actually. And I think Newcastle, a couple of players beyond Wilson, Barnes and Anderson, suggesting that he might have let that go, but he got his head to it and it dropped wide for a goal kick.
I think it was Barnes right behind him, much better position, but then again, maybe Barnes not quite as good in the air as Wilson usually is. Just a quick line actually about that. Player goes off. The referee knows he was deliberately hit, given a yellow card to the opponent, and then makes him wait 30 seconds before he can come on again in case he's been acting. I think not.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, why they've said that, isn't it? To try and persuade.
Yeah, but if your referee knows that it's happened because he's given a yellow card, I know that's a rule, but that's a rule that's not
instead,
perfect.
It's a blanket rule. So Brentford attacking down the left-hand side with Henry, and then Trippier in with a challenge. It bounces away. Henry went down, and has that been given as a free kick to Brentford? I think it perhaps has. And Trippier suggesting that was a clean challenge on Henry, but it's a Brentford free kick.
Defensively he's just said, actually, no, that's not a foul. I'm kicking this out because I think he's injured himself badly.
Okay.
So I think that's what's happened there. Just the reaction was that Trippier was on the ball, and instead of cleaning it up, he turned around and went, oh. So I think Henry's damaged his left knee quite badly there.
No. Well, immediately down here Brentford have started making movements, and I think there'll be a change not too far away. Brentford preparing Mads Roerslev, who's a fullback, the Dane, and
there's quite a lot of pain there, a lot of discomfort down there.
Let's hope this is all right for Henry, who's, his career is so on the up and up, isn't it? And he's so very well thought of. When you and I were here for the first match of the season, we saw Tyrone Mings pick up an injury that might rule him out for almost all of the season.
Yeah, no, you can always. It's the furthest away part of the pitch from us, so it's a long way for us. He had his back to us. There was another player between them, but you immediately look to the reaction of players, and even opposition players just said, no, stop, get him some help here.
Yeah, and I think the stretcher is being readied for Rico Henry.
I'd underline, I don't think there was any contact from any player. I really don't think there was. I think it was just he's maybe got his stud stuck and tried to turn, and that's often where you get some problems with your various ligaments in your knee.
Yeah, he's lying on his back now, and Kieran Trippier over there. Kieran Trippier is beckoning them to get a shift on, to get the stretcher on for him. He's leaning forward, the Brentford number 3, so he's sitting up now.
Just the other week there, we watched Botman going off, and I thought, that could be very, very serious indeed. But in actual fact, he's back. He's fine, quite quickly.
And now they are showing it again, actually. It was Trippier went in for the challenge.
Ankle in knee.
Yeah. He sort of stretched as he got to his feet after the initial challenge from Trippier, and it was just as you said, Pat. He sort of planted his foot, and then his knee sort of bent out.
I'm not a professional medic, but that looks like medial, not anterior cruciate. So any friends or fans listening, less worried now. He may have to go off, but that looks more like anterior. It looks like medial as opposed to anterior cruciate.
Yeah, and in a strange way, it's a good sign that on our little television here they've shown that again. So here is the change, and it is, as I was suggesting, that is it for Rico Henry. In the 42nd minute, his number 3 goes up, and Mads Roerslev is coming on for what is his 3rd substitute appearance of the season. Now, he is really a right back, and it looks as though, I wonder if they're going to
Hickey can move.
They're sending Hickey over there.
Hickey's completely and utterly comfortable either side. It doesn't matter to him.
So Rico Henry is now on the stretcher, and he's being carried away behind the goal. In fact, is he walking? He is. He's actually on his feet, walking around behind the goal. As Barnes carries the ball forward, and Norgard slides in and brings him down, and that's a free kick to Newcastle, about 5 or 6 yards outside of the Brentford penalty area, and a yellow card for Norgard.
Well, you can't actually come in from that angle there. That's the most clear-cut yellow card you're going to see all weekend for some distance, and he seems to be a little bit angry with that. I don't know why he's so angry there.
Elsewhere on Sports Extra, Wales 21, Portugal 3, and in the one-day cup final, Hampshire need 8 runs to win from the final over with 3 wickets remaining. So keep an eye on that as well. That you can hear that on the BBC Sport website, the commentary. Free kick, Trippier to take this. Rico Henry is actually walking now in front of the stand that we're in.
I could promise you, if it was an ACL, he wouldn't be walking.
No, so that's good news, and he'll shortly be down the tunnel. Free kick for Newcastle then. Trippier plays it in, looking for Wilson. That was headed away by Collins. Comes back to Trippier, who went for the spectacular. He caught it very sweetly on the volley, but it passed the goal probably 10 yards over the top.
Yeah, they've had 2 or 3 decent efforts from distance when they went out for a corner after a deflection. They're not frightened to shoot. Quite a lot of people have been talking about the fewer goals that have been scored these days from long distance, certainly the last season or so. Newcastle didn't seem to get the memo. You're having pops from all over the place.
That's Pat Nevin. 5 Live from the BBC. Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0. Both of tomorrow's matches, Premier League matches, are on 5 Live. Bournemouth Chelsea from 2, Everton Arsenal from 4:30, but we'll have all of the action covered. The Grand Prix, by the way, you can hear that on the website, and it's an early start, the Singapore Grand Prix. That's on from 12:45 via the BBC Sport website. Look for the Formula One pages. Carlos Sainz is on pole. Hope that hasn't upset anyone who wanted to catch up with that later. The ball's played to the halfway line as Brentford are able to recover, and it's volleyed back to Flecken, who chests it down and is able to clear it away before Gordon gets there. It's still Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0 with half-time approaching. We'll see from the fourth official very shortly, Tony Harrington, how long is being added on at the end of this first half. And Newcastle with it in front of their own penalty area. So a lovely turn from Bruno Guimaraes to take Jensen out of the game. Just dropped a shoulder, allowed the ball to run across his body, and Jensen sold himself and Guimaraes took it away. But Newcastle have gone back to the edge of their penalty area, and now it's Bruno as St James's Park sing his name. Trippier up to Gordon on the right hand side, but Gordon is dispossessed by Hickey, now operating as the left back, and that's his more natural position, isn't it?
I actually honestly don't think he cares. First time I ever saw him play Scottish Cup final, he was 16 years of age, played left back for Hearts against Celtic, and he was the best player on the pitch at 16.
Yeah, he's a very good player, isn't he?
He's exceptional, and to take nothing away from Brentford, I suspect he won't. He will go to a bigger, more fashionable, if I could say that, club.
You don't get much more fashionable than Brentford.
Obviously, well, they're hipsters.
Among the hipsters. Here's Barnes for Newcastle. 5 minutes of added time. We're into it. Barnes still going. Ball to the left-hand side. Played in by Anderson. Flecken comes, gets his white gloves to it on the dive to punch it away. Still goalless. And Trippier trying to find a way through. It bounced away from him. He went down under the challenge of Norgard, but not given as a free kick, and referee Pawson was right there. So Brentford in the blue come forward through the middle. It's played to Wissa, left side of the area. Wissa was in for the shot, but the cover came in actually.
And the thing about that break there, they've gone down the left hand side because Trippier's still down. He's still all the way up the other side of the field. He's not been able to come back. He feels as if his toe was trodden on. We've got another angle there. I tell you what, that would have been, if the referee could have spotted that, he'd have been, X-ray eyes, because that was a hard one to call, a hard one to see there. And the referee can give it if he doesn't see it.
Newcastle are able to block it behind at the other end for a corner. Hampshire need 5 from 3 balls with 3 wickets remaining. Going right to the final ball at Trent Bridge. Corner from the left. We're going to go to Trent Bridge when we get a chance, but Brentford have got their second corner, Pat.
Trippier's going back now. I wouldn't bother.
He's hobbling back. He's trotting alongside. In fact, he's got to wait because now Roerslev has dropped back. No, Trippier is now taking up his position inside the penalty area, and here is the Brentford corner in added time at the end of the first half. Still 0-0 here at St James's Park after this eventful afternoon in the footballing world. Here is the corner, played in, glancing header, and Burmo, but it's sent it high over the near post and behind. And here now is the dramatic finish at Trent Bridge. Kevin Howells.
19 years of age, Josh Hull of Leicestershire about to bowl to Keith Barker. Very experienced. They need Hampshire 4 runs from this last ball of this Metro Bank One Day Cup final. It's hammered away onto the lakeside. I don't think it's going to get there, not to the boundary. Leicestershire have won. What a final this has been for a competition much maligned these days. Hampshire needed only 8 from that last over with 3 wickets left. One of the batters was the much experienced Liam Dawson. He was out 3 balls from the end. What a moment for the teenager Josh Hull. What a terrific catch he took a little earlier as well in getting rid of Ian Holland, diving and sliding around. This has been a momentous day for Leicestershire and for this competition. Hampshire by far were the team they thought were going to not so much romp home, but certainly have the better of the less experienced of Leicestershire. But it's Leicestershire who win. They've won this cup final by 2 runs.
Well, that is an amazing win. Still 0-0 here at St James's Park. I was listening to that this morning when they were 19 for 4. I thought, well, they'll be finished by 4 o'clock, and there we are. Leicestershire have won. What a win that is, and I expect we'll have more on that during the course of the evening. First one-day cup win, I'm told, for Leicester since the days of David Gower and Jonathan Agnew, of all people, in the mid-80s. So 0-0 here, Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0, and we're just about finished with this first half, which Brentford began the better. Hickey and Wissa with the chances, but Bruno Guimaraes with the opportunity for Newcastle, but relatively few chances, and the whistles because Flecken is taking such a long time over this goal kick, which he does now, long downfield. Wissa heads it on, Burns underneath this. We've still got time to play these 5 minutes that have been added on. Wilson playing it forward, looking for the run of Barnes, who was shrugged off the ball, shoulder challenge. That might have been a foul on me. No, it wasn't. Wilson into the box on the left-hand side. Wilson works it across, but over the top of Flecken, who might have got a touch on that. Gordon chasing it. It's out of play. Yes, he did. It's a throw-in for Newcastle. This will be the last action of the first half. Eric Ten Hag to come shortly, but Newcastle now bursting into the area. Bruno Guimaraes, I think the ball had gone when he threw himself down there. It had.
I think
so referee Pawson not interested in that.
He ran into the defender. It's one of those ones. He initiated the contact.
Yes, so Newcastle come again though, still a chance. Bruno Guimaraes bounces away, cleared away towards the halfway line by Janelt, and Newcastle in now added time to added time, with the fine drizzle blowing into our faces here in this low position behind where Thomas Frank and Eddie Howe are standing. And Newcastle one final attack. There is still time. It is a minimum, remember, of 5 minutes that were added on as the volley bounces out of play from Brentford for a throw into Newcastle and Kieran Trippier, and I think this will be it. Craig Pawson allows play to continue. Nick Pope passing it out from the back, and then back to Nick Pope with his clearance that is headed forward by Norgard, and then the whistle does go. So 0-0 it is, Pat. Brentford losing Rico Henry with that injury that hopefully isn't too serious, but Brentford with the early chances, Newcastle with the later chances, but 0-0, Pat.
Yeah, do you know, it's not a bad game. I know it's 0-0, but both teams are they're closely matched, and they've both had periods where they've created chances. They've both had periods where it looks as if they could take over and control the game. And actually, in fact, in the simplest terms, it's 0-0, and it probably deserves to be a draw.
Yeah, and actually the most exciting thing that happened in that first half was probably the last ball at Trent Bridge. But Newcastle 0, Brentford 0 here on Tyneside.
Definitely the most exciting thing I think that happened was the last ball at Trent Bridge, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was exciting.
Yeah, it was very, very. They're still celebrating at Leicestershire.
That was a deciding moment.
Yes, it was. I know, yeah. It was amazing. It's been a remarkable one-day cup final. They're just getting off the field now, and Leicestershire will be lifting that trophy very shortly, as John said. First one-day trophy since the days of Gower and Agnew in the mid-80s. John Murray.
Second half underway here at St James's Park. 0-0 at the break. No further substitutions, and Brentford on the attack, all in blue. Newcastle defending. Norgard steps in, and then the ball was rattled into him by the right foot of Kieran Trippier and out of play for a throw to the home side, to Eddie Howe's Newcastle, standing down there talking away with Jason Tyndall just in front of the dugouts. And Newcastle's team: Pope, Trippier, Share, Botman and Byrne. Midfield of Guimaraes with Longstaff and Anderson, Tonali among the substitutes. So is Almiron. Newcastle making 5 changes for this match. And then the front line of Gordon on the right, Wilson through the middle, and Barnes on the left. So a very much a new look front line for Newcastle for this match, as Brentford go back to their goalkeeper, who is Flecken. The Dutch international just takes it onto his right foot. They had to make a change in the first half. Henry going off with that injury. So Roerslev came on at right wing back. Hickey's moved across to the left. Collins, Pinnock and Mee are the 3 central defenders. Jensen, Norgard and Janelt in the middle, and then Mbeumo and Wissa up front. Not too many chances in the first half. Actually, probably Pat Nevin, one good chance apiece. Wissa for Brentford and Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle.
And there's other opportunities to create chances that weren't taken as well, but I'm just watching it and thinking about the game at half time. No one's had a bad game, no one's had a stinker, but there's a lot of players and a lot of sort of duos that are cancelling each other out all over the pitch. So it's up to the managers to, we're talking here, there's
Gordon's just been caught by Hickey.
Didn't look as if it was deliberate there, but he's gone down. But they're cancelling each other out all over the field, and it's strange that, because you often see that when there's two similar systems up against each other. It's not that today. It's it's certainly watching Gordon going in for that. He's cleared the ball, but he just carried on in the kicking movement.
In his follow
Nothing
through,
you can do that. You can't help that.
He's kicked him on the side of the knee, but I think he's okay, Anthony Gordon. And what is referee Craig Pawson going to do? I think he's going to restart it with a drop ball. Yes, that's what it is. He's talking to Wilson and Pinnock, and I think he's suggesting that
Wilson doesn't want to let him pass it back to the goalkeeper here.
No, he doesn't. So as a result, drop ball, and Pinnock moves it onto his left foot and clears it down the line, and Trippier heads it forward. Pat Nevin with us on 5 Live, familiar voice of course. Pat will be going with Newcastle, and Ian Dennis as well for the commentary on Tuesday night. 2 Champions League commentaries Tuesday night as Brentford break through the middle, and Burmo Botman though is able to come across, and then it's played forward through the middle to Wilson. We might see Isak, I suspect we will at some point in the second half, left out for the first time this season. Gordon though on the right for Newcastle as they attack towards the Gallagate end. Now Trippier just plays it back centrally to Bruno Guimaraes. Wonder how many of those who are here today will be heading to Milan with you for the big return to the Champions League. But Bruno Guimaraes, right-footed across the pitch. Trippier is able to control this, brings down the spinning ball. There's no zip here for Newcastle just at the moment, and they have to go back towards the halfway line, and then to the left to Byrne, and out on that far side Barnes comes deep to retrieve it, then gives it infield towards Anderson. Burns continued his run down the left. Byrne trying to get past Jensen, and he can't do that. Jensen's able to quite simply put in the challenge out for a throw.
He's not got the look of the tricky winger, has he, when he tried to do that little step over there, Dan Byrne. But his willingness to go wide there and overlap on this occasion is allowing Anderson to go further inside, and he's again picking up those little pockets there. And he's one of the few players that is finding any space at all. Wilson gives it away in the middle of his own half, and then Janelt hits a long pass forward for Wissa to chase out to the right hand side. The Brentford number 11, already a couple of goals for him this season. He does well, finds a position, shoots, but in dived Anderson, or Longstaff it was, to block that, and it just rolled through to Pope to pick up. Yeah, his play all the way up to the final shot was looking very good indeed there, but just couldn't get a clean hit in it at all. So it is Newcastle 0, Brentford 0. Lines open for 606 if you've just switched on. 08085 909 693 is the number to dial and book your call with Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. Text 85058. Get in touch, hashtag BBC 606. Here's Brentford's Christian Norgard, who was booked in the first half, and actually since he's been yellow carded, there's been a couple of challenges that he's gone into where sharp intake of breath stuff, but he's remained on the right side of the law as it's played forward towards Wissa, who's on the right hand side. Botman goes across there, Wissa crosses into him, comes back to him, Wissa with a cross to the back post, but it's landed on the roof of the net, and it is a goal kick. 5 minutes played in the second half, still goalless. No, it's not started off lightning pace in the second half, has it? Quite a dull start to the second half. And that's why the substitutes, have started warming up. You see Isak's gone out to warm up there, and that was possibly the slowest start to a warm-up I think I've ever seen in my entire life. He didn't zip out the dugout there and sprint along to show the manager he was up for it and ready for it, but I think that's just his style. Very laid back. It is. Pope takes the goal kick through the middle. Ben Mee underneath that with his header forward. Norgard was after that. He got there. Jensen then plays it infield, but Mbeumo can't reach it, and Trippier volleys it over the top, where Roerslev allowed it to drop over his shoulder and was able to get to the ball first ahead of Anderson. But Newcastle win it back on the halfway line. The tall Dan Byrne now to Barnes. Barnes jabs it infield. They wanted Anderson to have a shot at goal. He's played it square to Gordon, who's just outside the area, going from left to right, then turns and goes in the other direction. Ball into Wilson on the edge of the area. Anderson, Callum Wilson now out to the right. The cross in from Trippier, that's headed out to Wilson just inside the box. Back to Trippier on the right. His ball in is headed down and away by Ben Mee.
Newcastle getting a little bit of momentum going, and then Cher crossing into the area. Flecken got a punch to that, to the left-hand side. Newcastle back in possession. The ball hooked across, beyond everyone, in between Gordon and Mee and Hickey, and it's behind for a goal kick.
I think that's a bad miss there. I really do. I think Gordon should header that, and I know that's not what he's famed for, but the goalkeeper makes a mistake punching Flecken when he actually should have caught that. I think it was easy to catch. Down at the back post comes Gordon, and he's almost ducked. It's almost a turtle head. He's instead of going towards it, he's kind of shrieked out of the way of it, and that's he knows himself. He should get his head on that.
Yeah, an opportunity.
Certain Mr. Shearer might have,
I think,
buried that one.
Might have been a different story, but Anthony Gordon is not Alan Shearer.
That's not.
Although he does, of course, have one or two talents, let's say, that Alan Shearer might not have done. But I think in the main, you're right, Pat. Yeah, I think Shearer would have buried that.
To be honest, I think there's a few others on the pitch who would have buried it as well, including Wilson. He's gutted he wasn't the end of that chance.
Yeah, as Pinnock comes across and puts the ball out of play. It's not Anthony Gordon's strong suit, of course. But Gordon takes the throw, played forward towards the corner of the box. Longstaff's there, comes off the head of Ben Mee. Cleared away by Collins for Brentford, though, out to the middle of the half. The drizzle has just eased, and it is now dry here at St James's Park, but still very, very grey above. The floodlights taking effect as the ball goes back to Mark Flecken, who clears to the halfway line. He's the replacement for David Raya, now at Arsenal. Comes back to Flecken again, and he swings a right foot at it to the halfway line. Byrne heads it infield. Anderson, challenged by Norgard, comes down for Brentford, and Pinnock, who steers it out to Jensen on the right hand side. He goes for the early pass over the top, and Burmo tried to flick it on. Botman was able to head it away out to the right hand side, and then Burmo wins a free kick.
You're doing very well, John, because of the period of very poor play for the last couple of minutes. A lot of people just turning and lumping the ball long. We're just not used to seeing that just now. But at the start of the second half, no one seems to be able to control the ball, get it in the middle of the field, do something intricate or different. Newcastle tried a few times around it. Oh,
that's a wide back pass by Pinnock to Flecken's left, when Flecken was actually running to his right, anticipating to receive it, but he quickly readjusted. And now Ben Mee brings it forward for Brentford, but he's overhit that, and Nick Pope is able to control it and pick it up inside his own penalty area. Still Newcastle 0, Brentford 0. And I've not made a note yet in the second half.
I've made one. It's not very good. That's it. And it isn't very good at all. I mean, it's almost as if no one wants to make a mistake.
As Anthony Gordon and Hickey come together again, but the ball bounces out of play, and the referee says throw into Newcastle on the halfway line. And Thomas Frank is just walking forward with his big white board, so whether he's thinking of the possibility of another change or not, I don't know.
I mean, there is a temptation. You must be thinking, look, we're not getting a lot of the ball just now. They're not getting up the field. They're not looking dangerous at all at the moment. So
he's got the magnetic markers on his board, so he might have a plan. As the ball bounces forward and out of play for a throw-in to Newcastle that Nick Pope will take. I think this performance, this match, is very much a legacy of the way that these two sides have started this season, with Newcastle with the 3 defeats in a row, and Brentford, who've had a string of draws, really. They're unbeaten, but just the one Premier League win so far this season.
But I've been very impressed by, Machada's not on yet, but there is a temptation. They've always got this. They can go to 4-3-3 very, very quickly, Brentford, and they're comfortable in that. They look more dangerous when they do that. Obviously having the 3 men up front, they just look a much more positive minded side, but having said that, they're usually dangerous in break in the current system they're in. But I just wonder if Thomas Frank is going to be brave enough to do that.
Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0, as Newcastle break through the middle. We're going to Nice in a moment and the Rugby Union World Cup, but Newcastle with Bruno Guimaraes played to the left hand side to Barnes. Barnes now skipping across the corner of the box, comes back to Bruno Guimaraes, square from him, right over to the right hand side to Trippier. Trippier drives it into the back post, comes off the head of Pinnock, the ball hangs in the air, Flecken goes for it, bounces down, it's stabbed in. Wilson has forced it over the line, but I think the referee's whistle might have gone. I think the goal may have been ruled out. Flecken certainly in the middle of that was looked rather awkward, looked as though he might have been challenged physically, and I think that has been given as a Brentford free kick.
Well, he didn't go and attack the ball at all, so it made you think he must have been pushed, because goalkeepers don't usually be so negative, and almost went to ground there. So the referee's taking his time. VAR have a good look at it. I think he's quite confident that it's going to be copped off. We've got a little bit of a chance here to look at it. Goalkeeper's just about to come from it, and he's lent into a little bit there by Wilson. It's not a lot, but probably enough.
To be honest, Pat, is that not more Flecken leaning into Wilson?
To be fair,
than the other way around?
I kind of almost want to give that go. Goalkeepers always do that thing. Well, I've been touched, so
I mean, Wilson has put himself in a position in front of Flecken, who is rather flimsy there. Flecken,
I would agree
opinion.
with that. Yeah, that's the classic one, arguing that it was his arm that was pulled down. It's not about the actual contact.
The referee's given the decision, though, that it was a free kick, and is that a clear and obvious? Is that a clear and obvious that VAR should overturn?
No, I don't think it's
debatable. So therefore, play resumes, and it is Newcastle United 0, Brentford 0. But that is certainly a talking point, whether that should have been given as a goal for Newcastle and Wilson. Wissa coming forward for Brentford, cleared away by Byrne on the edge of the penalty area. Now Brentford with Norgard. He volleys the ball, just puts his foot through it, out to the right-hand side. Jensen with the cross, dangerous, in, Wissa with a chance, didn't get a clean contact, and it was over the top of Janelt in there before Wissa got the touch, and then Pope is impeded by Hickey on the edge of the area, and that's an immediate yellow card from referee Pawson. More on that from Pat Nevin in a moment, but the full-time news from Nice it's the Côte d'Azur, isn't it, Chris Jones? What is the news?
Fantastic occasion here. Wales 28, Portugal 8. Wales have got the job done, but far harder than many expected. Portugal were terrific and deserved their try through flanker Nicola Martin, and Wales had to dig deep for the try bonus point. Talupi Faletau right at the end. That was absolutely critical. Wales 28, Portugal 8 full time.
And all of the reaction to that, of course, on the Rugby Union World Cup Daily, the podcast from BBC Sounds, and later commentary on Ireland-Tonga from 8 o'clock on Sports Extra, live from Nantes. I know that we're certainly not on the Côte d'Azur, Pat. As Newcastle come forward, it is quite chilly here. As the ball is played to the right-hand side to Trippier low ball in towards the edge of the penalty area. Longstaff turns, little ball to the edge of the box. Bruno Guimaraes is there, out to the right hand side. Gordon is onto this, then back to Trippier's cross onto the head of Pinnock, who's able to get up and head it away into the full back position. And then Longstaff does well, sliding in ahead of Norgard to keep possession for Newcastle. Bruno Guimaraes 30 yards out, still 0-0 if you've just switched onto us on 5 Live. Gordon's ball deflected into the path of Wissa, who plays it past Bruno Guimaraes. Wissa now off and running. Brentford on the counter-attack, but Gordon did well, actually, managed to get back and cut that out, or stop the momentum, although Norgard plays it through the middle. Wissa's pass, and Burmo is busting a gut to try and get to the ball, but he couldn't ahead of Cher, and Newcastle play it forward again. Pat Nevin.
Rather beautifully by Trippier there, little step over, makes a huge amount of space.
Now through the middle, Collins has got to get there, but he did, ahead of Barnes on the edge of the penalty area.
It's livened up again.
It has. Barnes with Anderson, goes on, takes on Collins, gets the crossover. There's no one there at the back post for Newcastle, and Hickey tries to play it back, and sliding, Flecken might have caught Gordon, who went spiralling down over the dead ball line. I mean, it's definitely a corner at the very least, but Geordie fans in the Gallowgate end, over the advertising hoardings, they are saying it's a penalty, and he's given it. It's a penalty to Newcastle, and I think Flecken is the man, as he slid out, caught Anthony Gordon, who went rolling away, and it's a penalty to Newcastle and a chance for the home side to take the lead.
Yeah, again, they're going to be looking at it, obviously they always do, but Flecken knew nothing about it. The ball was running out and he went to slide over. I mean, it's right on the byline there. I don't think he sees Gordon. Gordon runs into where his leg is. You know, it's inverted commas clever. You know, it's one of those where Gordon has absolutely run into the space. Gordon's not actually trying to go press it to try and get to the ball there. He's putting his legs where Flecken's coming out. It's players are good at that. Gordon's done it before.
Slid out on his knee, and Gordon placed his foot into the path of the sliding goalkeeper. Knee caught player. It's a penalty.
Yep.
And
you can't argue with that, John, because when you go out and you slide out, it doesn't matter if you're a goalkeeper or a defender, you make sure you get the ball. If you don't get the ball and you take a player, wherever that player is, it will be a free kick stroke penalty.
Long gap, because VAR are obviously checking this, and therefore Bruno Guimaraes has been guarding the penalty spot. Kieran Trippier, the Newcastle captain, has been wandering around with the ball. Callum Wilson, who I presume will take it, yes he will, because he's just been given the ball. He's been wandering away, just composing his thoughts. Brentford continue their complaints, and that is continuing. Nathan Collins is the latest player to just make his point to the referee. So Callum Wilson's had a long time to think about this.
That's always the case with penalty kicks these days. That's what the players have to figure out. That's why their mates help them. Sometimes they hold the ball. He's going to get his chance here. Watch out. Janelle, I noticed, went over and kicked up the turf just a few moments as well.
Yeah. That's what Bruno Guimaraes was trying to protect and stop from happening. So it is Callum Wilson, Newcastle United's number 9, the top scorer of last season, who has the chance from the penalty spot to give the home team the lead in what's been a very tight match so far. Wilson steps up, right-footed, high into the net. Flecken diving to his left, but he couldn't reach that. Callum Wilson, his 3rd goal of the season, and Newcastle United, having lost their last 3 matches, lead Brentford by 1-0 in the last half hour here at St James's Park.
Lots and lots of pressure on that penalty kick. Goalkeeper still complaining here. He's got a yellow card for his troubles there, but it doesn't matter. The penalty kick was given, he didn't mean it, but when you go out, you've got to get the ball. He didn't, he got a bit of Anthony Gordon, who was, looking for it, but that's part of the game, that's part of the deal. But Wilson, pressure was on there, plenty of it, but it didn't look like it, because he leathered it into the top corner there. I think the referee, it's one of those ones like you're talking about 606. Plenty of people will phone in and say they think that should have been or should not have been a penalty kick. I would say with the referee in this one, I think they got it right. I think it should be a penalty. Keeper got away with it a few minutes before, hadn't he? When he didn't attack the ball. This time, decision making was wrong.
Callum Wilson, who had put the ball into the net during that incident, and I must say I feel he was maybe a little unfortunate, but within a few moments really got the chance from the penalty spot, and what a good spot kick it was as well. As he looked at it, Wilson, into the top right corner, the postage stamp corner, but now no guard for Brentford, shoots from 25 yards plus, but it just floats away really wide and high of the goal and behind for a goal kick. So Newcastle United 1, Brentford 0.
Well, now it's all to Brentford. I think they have to go change it maybe. Are they going to go back to that favourite system of 4-3-3? Bring on another player, leave one of your centre-backs out. That's what they've tended to do in the past. But it might be too late for them. We shall see who blinks first in this one, because Eddie Howe's made quite a lot of changes round about this part of each game we've been to see him this season, John.
Well, Brentford have scored in every match so far this season, League and Cup, as Hickey is fouled by Gordon, and it's a free kick to Brentford in their own left-back position.
You've got to say they have slightly deserved it in the second half. It was really scrappy for 5, getting on for 10 minutes, but as the game developed in the second half, Newcastle had more of the play, spent a lot of time with intricate passing along that 18-yard line, trying to look for a little bit of a gap. Well, we finally found it, and just by the skin of their teeth, they probably deserve to be ahead.
Yeah, it's been a tightly contested match by Newcastle, a little down on confidence, and Brentford, a very good top half of the Premier League team. Hickey taking the ball into the penalty area, but is dispossessed, and then the ball bounces behind.
Hickey's fuming because Hickey twice was pulled back, and both times he just stayed on his feet, and he's been honest. Loses the ball to Trippier, who was pulling him. As soon as he gets near him, he throws himself to the ground
and wins the free kick.
Slightly too honest there, I think Hickey feels he has been.
Lines open for 606. There's a couple of talking points there for you in in the last few minutes here at St James's Park. So Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton, as every Saturday night, taking your calls on 08085 909 693. How about that? After what's been a really eventful day, you can read all about the action on the football pages of the BBC website as Newcastle break down the left. Barnes gives it back, then it's helped in by Byrne, but into the gloves of Flecken, who makes a comfortable catch this time. So yes, BBC Sport website for all of the reports, and then the action on Match of the Day tonight, either on BBC One or anytime via the iPlayer, and then the Football Daily podcast for free every morning from BBC Sounds, where of course you can listen to the live radio and indeed rewind our commentaries if you fancy going back and listening to them again. If you've been to a match and wanted to hear what it sounded like on 5 Live, might want to listen to the Scotland-England game from the other night. Here's Barnes bringing the ball forward, right foot, but blazes the shot wide and high, and it lands about a fifth of the way up the Gallowgate end.
It's so unusual because you expect Barnes to put that on target, and then he's got it a long way, passed out over the bar and I think past the post as well, but he was being slightly hurried by the defender, but you would expect him to at least get it on target from there. He has got such an unerring shot.
So Newcastle United lead through the goal from the man from the Footballers Football podcast, Callum Wilson. Here is Jensen lifting the ball forward, but Trippier is able to head it away and then challenges again for the ball. Trippier, Bruno Guimaraes forward towards Wilson, and then Trippier has to head it back into central defence. Any sort of win for Newcastle here would do Eddie Howe in the circumstances. Champions League coming up on Tuesday night. Any win, however they do it, 1-0 by a penalty, they won't mind a bit about that.
And also underlining before the game, I mean, the games they've lost have been very difficult opponents. Brighton are not easy opponents. Manchester City are not easy opponents. So they've had a tough run, but they must have been looking at this game, certainly Eddie Howe, thinking 3 points absolutely imperative if they're going to stay on course to finishing in the top 4 again, and obviously getting that great start for this week.
But Brentford are such a good outfit under Thomas Frank. They're well capable of drawing level, maybe even winning it from here. But they've got a problem with Ben Mee, who has just sat down halfway inside his own half.
I wonder if that was a technical injury.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
Get the players a chance to get over. Thomas Frank, look at him now. He was already there. The bit of paper is ready. Everything was written down. All the players being told what to do. He's adapting something really smartly. And all the players knew what to do the minute he went down there. And I'm not saying he is acting. He's probably got a little bit of an injury, might have a little bit of a strain there. He's walking slowly, but the players immediately over to Frank.
Yeah, well, Ben Mee's been walked to the halfway line, and what's going to happen here is that Neil Maupay is going to come on for his debut for Brentford, second time around. Now, he had a horrible time, as you probably know, at one of your former clubs, Everton, Pat, but he had a very good time when he was last at Brentford with 41 goals in 95 appearances. He scored 28 one season, which is his personal best. More recently, Neil Maupay, 1 goal in his last 40 Premier League appearances. And Thomas Frank is unhappy that he can't get Maupay onto the field. So Ben Mee,
I think he wants to make 2 substitutions as well, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. He's also going to bring on Frank Onyeka into the midfield.
3 Shatters.
And another one, Shatter as well. So a triple substitution coming up for Brentford, but not yet. And here's Mbeumo now on the right-hand side for Brentford, down towards the byline. 2 Newcastle men with him, and in comes the challenge to get a touch on it from Anderson. Newcastle still haven't got it away from the left-back area, which they will do. Mbeumo stayed down. Ball comes back to the edge of the area to Wissa. Wissa shoots from the angle, but wide, wastefully wide from there.
They do look as if they've slightly run out of ideas now, so it's really handy if you've got real top quality players to bring on. We know Maupay's got it. He's got goals in him. Not recently, but looks as if he was going to be feeling a little bit more at home. Well, he'll certainly hope that.
Substitution for
Okay.
So May's definitely
Ben
coming
Mee
off.
is off, so that is it's going to be a change at the back, isn't it? To a back four. Jan Elt coming off from the midfield, and also Norgard from the centre of midfield, who is on a yellow card, as we've suggested. So Neil Maupay comes on for his second Brentford debut. Chardin is on as well, having been left out of the starting lineup today, and Onyeka into the midfield as well, so he's obviously going to slot into the Norgard role.
Intrigued, that's very, very, very positive change there, and I wonder if they go 4-2-3-1.
I think
the attackers.
Yeah. Here's Gordon playing it infield. It's Newcastle though who are on the attack with Anderson. Newcastle winning 1-0 into the latter stages now, into the last 20 minutes. Barnes with a cross, takes a flick off a defender's foot, bounces behind, and Burmo's okay, by the way. After he went down, it was him that was back to block that behind for a corner to Newcastle from the left, who lead by the Wilson penalty.
Well, you can't really rest easy, because the Premier League last few weeks particularly have been incredible for late goals and late vital goals, so that's exactly what Brentford are looking for just now, and they've got plenty of attack-minded players on that field that could do that.
Corner then, and it is very difficult, more difficult than it's ever been before, to waste time, but Newcastle with the slender lead, as I think the drizzle has just begun again here on Tyneside, not far from the coast, where it'll be rolling in off the North Sea. Trippier waiting to take this. Somebody's gone down inside the box. Wilson. It's a packed 6-yard area, black, white and blue in there. Trippier still waits, so they have managed to take a time. I think there's been Wilson now is racing around. It's like a game of hide and seek inside the 6-yard box. Trippier swings it in, Flecken comes, gets the punch on it, good punch out of the penalty area. Not sure if I'm thinking hide and seek. It's like some sort of party game, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. Squeak, piggy, squeak, something like that. The ball bounces out for a throw-in on the far side, for a throw-in to Newcastle, and again they're going to take their time. As I say, we're in the last 20 minutes now. Lines open for 606 08 085 909 693, and the throw-in is taken. Brentford have got possession back and Burmo have tried to work it away. He's only succeeded in giving possession back to the black and white stripes. Burn, and all the way back to Cher on the halfway line, forward through the middle, and Newcastle now looking to just slow things down, bring a bit of composure to events. Ball through to Anderson. Now Burn on the left hand side whizzes the ball across left foot, took a deflection which carried it up and over the bar for another corner to Newcastle.
I have to say, I'm slightly surprised for Brentford there. You know, they've got to go down, right? They've made the big changes. You expect an explosion of pace, closing Newcastle players down. It ain't happened. Not even close to happening yet. And you get very, very little time. 15 minutes of, normal time to go. Maybe some more minutes after that. But, you need to come on and make an impression right away.
Corner from the right then. So, again, the packed penalty area, but not so much the 6-yard box, this one, with it being an outswinger from Trippier. So more of a grouping around the penalty spot. Floodlights catching the drizzle as it falls, and Trippier waiting because the referee is just in discussions with Jensen. They are having a look at a possible penalty for handball, which I think has been immediately dismissed. There we are. Well, as soon as hopes were raised among the home supporters, they were dashed by the next sentence. Trippier with the outswinger to the near post. That's headed away for Brentford towards the halfway line by Maupay, but Newcastle win it back. There's a man down for Brentford.
Very unusual.
And the referee's going to stop it. And that's frustrated the home fans. Onyeka going down. I'm not sure whether that was a collision, but he certainly put his hands to his face.
Well, yeah, and the referee was right beside him and thinks he was acting. Actually, he got one on the chin there, just on the side of the wrist. There was nothing deliberate about it, but the referee's right beside it and sees it and thinks he's acting a little bit. But because it's a head knock, he has no choice. He has to stop the play. In actual fact, Onyeka did actually got a really sore one on the chin. Not deliberate, not a foul. Probably, let's see if he has to go off here.
Yep, I'm not sure anyone actually came on to have a look at him, did they?
No, they didn't. So it's not that bad.
Right, okay.
It was okay. Yep. Stay in the field.
So, still on, still 11 against 11. Newcastle United 1, Brentford 0. Lines open for 6:06. Choice of listening later. Ireland Tonga at the Rugby Union World Cup, live from Nantes from 8 o'clock. But we'll keep you obviously updated on 5 Live with the score as Bruno Guimaraes plays it through, headed down by Collins, and now Brentford with Jensen forward to Wissa. Wissa tries to swing it forward towards Sharda. Byrne got a foot in, but it comes back to Sharda, who now takes it round the outside. Brentford on the attack. Sharda drives it into the near post, but Nick Pope was able to come across and pat that down quite easily. And just as he does that, it just reminds me that Newcastle are yet to keep a clean sheet yet this season, as Wilson might have been caught there. He's gone down. Referee's allowed to play to continue, but it was an injury to his lower leg, and Brentford continue to have possession. Collins to his right, and Rurslev.
It's a bit slow, isn't it, though? Talking about Brentford, you're a goal down. You've made the big changes. You're going to take the chance now. Lift the pace a bit, get the ball to the likes of Sharda, because he's had the ball once and he just breezed by his defender.
Ball out to Burmo on the right hand side for Brentford. There are nervy moments to come for Newcastle in this match, I feel. We're into the last 15 minutes now. Jensen picks out a low pass to Burmo, and Burmo, 2 Newcastle players in front of him, goes back. The Rurslev, who swirls it into the penalty area, but Cher wins the header in the box under pressure, and Newcastle clear but not completely. Jensen is under this, has a look. Onyeka brings that down, gives it to Rurslev. Brentford now parked inside Newcastle territory. See, Newcastle are going to make a change. Almiron is going to be the first Newcastle substitute actually to come on, as Pinnock sends the ball forward and is suggesting he was caught there by Gordon, and he stayed down. And Thomas Frank is saying to Hickey, you're going to have to get back and cover for Pinnock as Newcastle bring forward. That's a lovely pass from Bruno Guimaraes to Gordon. Gordon goes for the byline, clips it across to the back post. It's headed back down. There's a suggestion that it might be a handball. There is. Barnes headed it, I think, into the arm of Burmo, and the referee's seen it. It must have been a raised arm from the Brentford man, and it's a second penalty of the match to Newcastle United.
Again, it's a long way away from us. Player down there, Thomas Frank shouting about that, but the referee said he didn't see a foul, so he's not going to stop the play. He's going to carry it on. Now it's Gordon on the far side there. The way it was headed down, you thought there is an arm up, it is away from his body. He's got his back to it, so he can't see it. It's not deliberate, but that just does not matter.
Barnes was jumping ahead of Burmo, above him, and headed it down. I think it took a deflection off Burmo into his own outstretched arm, which was stretched out horizontally in front of him, and it hit it there.
Well, if it takes a deflection off himself, that maybe changes it. They're having a very, very good close look at it just now. They are going to check it. So I think that's what they're looking at, the deflection.
I think it did deflect off his head onto his arm. And it wasn't goal bound, it was being headed square. Having a look at offside first of all. So it's Anthony Gordon with the cross.
No, it's not offside. He's definitely behind the play. He's cut that one back.
So at the back post, just watching it again, Harvey Barnes, who is, as I say, close to Burmo, heading it down, and here comes the decision, and he's going to go and have a look, and it's just as you said, Pat. I think this is going to be overturned here, because Craig Pawson has been told to go and have a look at this on the far side of the field on the television screen. So as we now know, they'll be talking away to him and telling him what they think, what they've seen, but they're going to leave it to the on-field referee to make this decision.
Yeah, I think we both agree that yes, it touched the arm, but it touched his head first before it hit his arm. So if it's a deflection off the head and arm, it should be
might even have been a double deflection off Burmo, headed down by Barnes and then onto his head, top of his shoulder, and then onto his outstretched arm. I think it is.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, so
double deflection.
Don't think you can give a penalty there.
And here we go. There's the rectangle, and it's ruled out. Craig Pawson gives that signal. The two palms crossed over one another, So no penalty, no second penalty for Newcastle, and the score remains Newcastle United 1, Brentford 0.
And he's got the ball quickly back, and he's saying he thought it was a goal kick, and he's arguing with Wilson saying he didn't think it was. He think it was a corner kick. He's not going to win that argument.
Right, anyway, so play is about to resume, but Newcastle are going to make a change. Thomas Frank has brought on young Keane Lewis Potter for Aaron Hickey. So that also is an attacking change. Keane Lewis Potter coming on, the former Hull City youngster. And Newcastle's change will see Almiron coming on and Harvey Barnes off. So, as we were discussing at half-time as a possible change for Newcastle, Pat, Anthony Gordon will move back across to the left. Yes, he's already over there, and Almiron's on the right. So that's the first Newcastle change.
I think we're quite relieved. I mean, I wanted the penalty kick, obviously, anyhow, but also we'd be relieved that they were beginning to sit back just too quickly, and that happened against Liverpool. They were against 10 men, but they didn't believe in themselves to put the game to bed, and they just fell further and further back. Since they scored the goal, Newcastle, and I don't actually think they've been pushed back, I just think they fell back, and it's, they've got to do better than that. If they feel themselves as a team that's going to be a top four regularly, you've got to go and put these games to bed.
That's Pat Nevin, former Chelsea, Everton, Scotland man. 6:06 on the way with Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. 1-0 Newcastle lead. Here is Lewis Potter just into the action near the edge of the box. Wissa back to Lewis Potter, shoots. That was blocked by Bruno Guimaraes. Comes out to Onyeka, who's able to get the ball down. Frank Onyeka, the Nigerian international, he's been away playing for them over the course of the last week or so. Ball forward from him. Newcastle put it out for a throw down the left hand side. Just get a word from you as well on Harvey Barnes on his first competitive start for Newcastle, having just been substituted when we get a chance, Pat. But Brentford with this throw in front of the Leazes end, their supporters way up high in there, looking down on the action, almost directly down. And Jensen is going to wind himself up for this long throw, which he does now into the near post, into a whole raft of players. Headed away for Newcastle, nodded back across the box by Mbeumo, headed away by Almiron for Newcastle, and then Roerslev with it nearer the halfway line. Mbeumo to Jensen, who flicks it with his instep down the line for Lewis Potter. Lewis Potter, beats his man well. Lewis Potter, right footed cross to the back post. It's headed by Wissa, but he was sandwiched by Newcastle players, couldn't get any power on it, and it just bounced down and was taken by Pope.
Oh, I liked that by Lewis Potter. That was seriously old school dribbling, wasn't it? I mean, the defender he got out the ball, and before he knew it, he was on the ground, on his backside, and Lewis Potter's just gone away, cruised past him. Lovely little piece of play on the left hand side.
Yes, that was Collins is challenging Wilson and fouling him, and that's a free kick, well won. Play's continuing, the players down the field don't realise the whistle's gone, but that was well won by Callum Wilson, and a free kick to Newcastle. That was quite Dick Emery of you, by the way, there, wasn't it? Oh, I like that. For those who remember Dick Emery, yes, very much so. We have plenty of older listeners as well, Pat. Yes, it's not all about the young listeners, so they tell me. It's a free kick to Newcastle in the middle of the Brentford half. Lines are open to talk to another couple of our older listeners, Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. 08085 909 693 or 85058. Newcastle still lead 1-0, Pat.
Is that the Eric and Aaron of Radio 5 Live? But this is a chance now. To be honest, the free kicks so far haven't actually been brilliant from Trippier, have they? I mean, he's usually so fabulous, but even from wide areas, he's been hitting the first man. They've not been finding the position. However, he's about 28, 29 yards out. He's dead centre. He must be tempted by this.
Yep. Pat's described it perfectly. The wall is being lined up on the edge of the D. Newcastle's players are on the end of it, on the left of it, as Trippier looks at this. And there is the possibility of share, but no, it's Trippier who curls it into the box, then it's hooked across, but into the arms of goalkeeper Flecken, who is able to gather it up. And
by the way, that tense feeling that you're talking about, you can feel it around the ground. It's very quiet, isn't it?
It is.
You know that these Newcastle fans think we're not safe yet.
It's not like it was when we were here just a few weeks ago. when the place was absolutely rocking in the latter stages of the 5-1 win against Aston Villa. The only match so far this season in which Newcastle have won points. But now Bruno Guimaraes through to Wilson. Here's Almiron on the right hand side, but Almiron has to check back, and now Brentford are back in position. Square. Bruno Guimaraes scoops it forward. Wilson on the right side of the area plays it into Collins, and it bounces out into the full-back position where Pinnock stabs it out of play off the Newcastle man for a throw into the visitors. We've got 3 minutes, just over 3 minutes of added time to go. 1-0 Newcastle lead. So it's going to be an exciting finish as Longstaff is dispossessed and Maupay plays it forward, and now Sharda could be in. The defenders there with him though. Byrne coming across did well, slid in just as Maupay was looking to either shoot for goal or return it, and it's behind for a corner.
Johnny had an option there, and Buemo was on the right hand side. He was free, he was a little bit further behind, but it was the obvious pass. But he thought to himself, no, I know my mate here, he's just come on there, Shadi, and he wanted to play him in. However, couldn't get away from the defender.
Yeah, Sharda it was with the shot, and here we have a corner for Brentford, and once again they've left no one back, although Roerslev is now just trotting away to look after Gordon just outside the box. So, corner, danger for Newcastle to defend this set piece.
Do you know, if Pope gets the ball here, if he could come and collect it, he'd just throw it out to Gordon, who I think he'll have the pace to get away from anyone in this ground if it's a 1-on-1.
Brentford scored 18 goals from set pieces in the Premier League last season. Set piece here, Jensen whips it in, but headed away by Longstaff for Newcastle. Comes back to the edge of the area, that also headed away, and Brentford are back in possession. We've got just under 2 minutes of the 90 to play. Flecken now, the goalkeeper, long pass, too long, floats out of play for a throw into Newcastle that Kieran Trippier will wait to take. Thomas Frank and Eddie Howe, you'll hear them all being well during 606, the interviews with the two managers, or the head coach as Thomas Frank's title officially is. Maupay throws the ball at Trippier trying to get him to get on with it. Trippier just lets it hit him and bounce away. So a throw into Newcastle. Kieran Trippier skips forward and throws it infield, but Jensen heads that to the edge of the Newcastle box. Botman comes forward, he heads that away, then it finds its way to Wilson, the goal scorer, on the halfway line, loses out to Collins, and now Roerslev, who will pass it back to Flecken, and then a left-footed ball away back out to the far side to Collins, who's able to take the ball under possession, plays it infield towards Jensen, who wasn't sure who was around him there, so just went for the long ball downfield, looking for Burmel on the right wing. Now Onyeka, sturdy figure in centre field, back to Jensen, who overhits the pass out of play. Home cheers in the stands of St James's Park as it's out for a throw-in, and we've got less than 30 seconds of the 90 to go.
It just has never really flowed in the second half of Brentford. They've not got it going. They've attempted to change it. They've put a lot of attack-minded players on there, but they cannot control the ball in the midfield. And even though that period where Newcastle sat further and further back, they've never looked massively dangerous. But it only takes one chance.
It does. So it's still in the balance.
9
minutes of added time. Got two balls on the field at the moment. So 9 minutes. I mean, we've had a couple of stoppages. The longest stop was for the injury to Henry in the first half.
Was the penalty, and they had to look at that.
Yeah, there's a lot
VAR.
of that. We've had a couple of VARs. Ben Mee received treatment. So all that adds up to 9 minutes, so plenty of time for Brighton. So 606, about 10 minutes away. 08085 909 693 to book your call. Match of the day tonight for the highlights, anytime on the iPlayer, and two commentaries on 5 Live tomorrow. Both Premier League games that are being played, Bournemouth, Chelsea and Everton, Arsenal, but all of the top sport covered from midday. Sharda on the right hand side, back to Roerslev behind him as Brentford attack towards the famous Leazes end. Sharda, then back to Onyeka, goes the full 360 degrees, and Burmo, then to Roerslev again. Now Sharda, all action, all body movement, taking the ball away from Gordon, who puts in the challenge. It bounces out of play, that is given as a Brentford throw. Sharda went down but was quickly up on his feet again. This throw, Jensen's going across to take it, the long throw man, so he'll wind himself up here. Brentford have got Pinnock and Collins up from the back. In fact, for a long throw, they've got everyone forward. There's no one back for a long throw to be taken, and it's a short throw. Jensen to Mbermo, then in from Roeslav, but Onyeka has managed to back away, and he now has it, but he's the last line of defence, and he very nearly lost out there as Bruno Guimaraes runs into Onyeka and finds out how sturdy he is, bounces off him. And Pinnock now on the left wing, one touch, then a second touch, that's for Wissa to chase, and in comes the challenge from Cher, and yes, he did, he caught the man first. He's saying he took the ball, and in agony Cher puts his hands to his face, drops down to his knees. How could you possibly have given that as a free kick?
Well,
but it is
exactly the same as the penalty kick that was given. Wissa went into the player, and because he'd gone to the ground, he's gone into the player, and inverted commas won the free kick there. But if you give the penalty for that, you've got to give the free kick for that one.
Newcastle United 1, Brentford 0. Last knockings. Well, I say that, we've still got 7 minutes of added time to play. And it is a free kick in the full-back position, the Newcastle right-back area. And Burmo walking forward. Jensen looks as though he's going to take it, but they could have the option of taking it short. There's the referee's whistle. They wait. And Burmo now steps forward. Still lots of movement in the area. And it is Jensen, takes it into the back post. Oh, Pope came, it was beyond him, it bounced off, there was a defender there, hit one of the Brentford players, bounced behind, and it's a goal kick.
Yeah, and again, I think it's came in too quickly. I don't know, he's got, seeing if it was Wissa, it might have been, and he's just not got his head connected with it. That's another very decent chance. I mean, it's one of those ones where if you think the defender's going to get it, it doesn't matter, you still keep going for it. But it's almost again earlier. Gordon had a chance, didn't he, earlier on when he didn't put his head through it. He got to put his head through it. There was nobody near him.
Wissa, who had it's been a scrappy match. It's not been the best by a long way. And of the chances that there've been, Wissa had one of the best of them early on in the match. Yeah,
and it's in both occasions he hasn't committed to attacking the ball. And that's what it's about. You have to commit to attack the ball. If you try and go for it and you put everything into getting there and don't get there, the manager won't complain. But if you're kind of half-hearted about it.
Another one of those matches. Brentford are having to go through this period without Ivan Toney, former Newcastle United youngster. This is one of those games where you're thinking, if Ivan Toney had been on the field today, I believe that he can start to train with Brentford after this match, incidentally, so he's able to return to the fold, but can't play, as you probably know, till January. Newcastle 1, Brentford 0, and Brentford defending, Newcastle attacking in the full-back area, bounces out of play. Anthony Gordon feels that should have been given as a throw in Newcastle's way, and that's a yellow card for Callum Wilson.
Yeah, and he has to be careful there, because he shoved the defender there, and the referee's correct. He slowed the play down because he's trying to take a free kick, and he's throw in, and he shoved him. But then he has a dig at the referee. He's taking a chance there, Callum.
Was that a double yellow card? Did Gordon get one, perhaps, for something?
No, I think it was Wilson. I think it was his shot. I may be wrong.
They show it twice. Jensen then hits it away downfield, but Keane Lewis Potter won't reach that, and it's out of play for a throw into Newcastle 10 yards inside their own half. Right after all of that, we've had 5 minutes of the 9 of added time. Book your call 606 0805 909 693. Ireland Tonga commentary from 8 o'clock on Sports Extra.
By the way, I think you called it right. I think it was both of them that get booked. Well done, well spotted.
So Gordon also yellow carded. Not long to go. Be a very valuable win for Newcastle before they head off to Milan. This, as it's helped forward by Bruno Guimaraes, but I think Flecken will get there first. He will comfortably, actually, ahead of Almiron. Yep, Tuesday and Wednesday Champions League commentaries. Milan, Newcastle, Manchester City, Red Star, Belgrade, and then Bayern Munich, Manchester United. They're our Champions League commentaries on Tuesday and Wednesday night. Off to Munich during Oktoberfest, Pat. Here's Bruno Guimaraes over the halfway line, still going, and I think he was tripped by Jensen. He was sent sprawling. The referee says no. Well, it certainly if he fooled the referees, if he fooled anyone, he certainly fooled me. And then Bruno Guimaraes himself upends Onyeka and will be yellow carded for that. So another Newcastle yellow card.
Yeah, and it was a fury there for Guimaraes. Do you know what he tried, to be honest? You're right, he was fell down, went through two players, they put him off his balance, but he rolled and tried to get up again, but obviously couldn't keep his feet. And the referee should have given him a free kick there. He definitely deserved it, so he's taking the laws into his own hands, which you're not allowed to do.
Nope, third yellow card of the season. Byrne heads away on the edge of the box. Brentford certainly haven't given this up. Thomas Frank's side being waved on by the man himself just down in front of us. Then Long from the back. Pope's come a long way and catches that above the head of Wissa. Only a couple of strides, maybe one stride inside the penalty area, but the Newcastle United goalkeeper, chasing his first clean sheet of the season, has got the ball. Yeah,
it's not a great deal to do for most of the game there, but that was a good time to come out. Defenders love that, taking all the pressure off them.
Well, you said it, Pat. Do not leave a Premier League game early this season. Here's Wilson through the middle, and then Anderson tried to slip it across the box. It took a deflection on the edge of the area from Pinnock, and actually very nearly bounced to Gordon, but Brentford were able to clear through Roerslev.
Yeah, the Newcastle are delighted with that, and every single fan in here. And by the way, few of them have left. They want a celebration at the end here, but they've got the ball exactly where they want it. Corner, way away from their goal, clinging on to this 1-0 lead. They've not had to cling too much, have they?
No, they haven't. Anthony Gordon, now the Gallagher is on its feet, trying to cheer and urge and roar Newcastle through to what will be only their second win of this season. Corner is taken short, predictably, and there are so many bodies in that right back area. Eventually bounce out of play for another throw to Newcastle. Byrne waits to take this, does so to Wilson. They need to keep their heads here, Newcastle, after all of the yellow cards, and Wilson is right in the thick of things there, and the free kick is given. Is it a free kick or is it a throw? The referee is right in the middle of it all, and I think he says it's a Newcastle corner. It's difficult to tell.
It's like a scrum, a rugby game, right down by the goal line, and everyone's defending it, and that's exactly what Newcastle like. All the players in there killing the game, they're running down the clock, but running it down during open play, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it is a corner as Newcastle take it, and with Brentford players gathered around, win another one. Second consecutive corner down there. I mean, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Brentford players who must be, I mean, they don't look as though they're 10 yards from the
Do you know how many
are
in the box for this corner?
No Newcastle players are in the area. As the corner is taken short, Callum Wilson tries to win another one and kicks it straight past the Brentford men, and it's a goal kick. Well, I make it we've had over 9 minutes of added time now. So only seconds left. Newcastle seconds away from victory. Brentford seconds away from their first defeat of the season. Perhaps time for one final attack. Roerslev, long towards the edge of the area. Kieran Trippier, I think, might have shoved Lewis Potter in the back, but the Brentford man doesn't get the free kick. Trippier's able to clear. Gordon's taking it downfield. Gordon now goes beyond the defender, and he's got it in that corner again, but actually goes to play it off the defender, misses him, and the ball runs for Flecken to pick it up, but that is it. The final whistle goes, and Newcastle's losing run is over. They've got their first win, Eddie Howe's side, since the opening weekend of the season, that thrilling 5-1 win against Aston Villa. Things have not gone their way since then, but they'll go off to the Champions League in much better heart after this. As I say, for Newcastle, it didn't matter how they did it today, and they've won it through Callum Wilson's second half penalty. Brentford, meanwhile, go down to their first defeat of the new season. Pat Nevin.
Yeah, it wasn't hugely impressive by Brentford. I think they started off quite defensively. When they do that 5-3-2, sometimes it worked for them, but their two strikers really weren't involved in the game enough. And Newcastle certainly weren't at their best either. Very, very scrappy in comparison to, a lot of times I've seen them before, but sometimes that happens, and as you say, you have to find your way around it, and they found a way to hold on, and it's a 1-goal win, and Eddie Howe will take that all day long. He's also been able to rest one or two of his players, which I think is massively important for the big game coming up in Milan here, but I don't think Brentford can have too many complaints. And at this point in time, as you say, no Newcastle fan will complain. I'd make one big further prediction. This game will not be first on Match of the Day tonight.
I don't think at the end of this season, Pat, I'll be saying to you, Pat, do you remember when we were at St James's Park for Newcastle against Brentford? No, but there we are. However, let's not underplay the worth and importance of it to Newcastle United. So yes, join us in Milan on Tuesday night, 5:45 kickoff, so don't miss it. Milan against Newcastle. Pat will be there with Ian Dennis. And then Manchester City Red Star Belgrade later that night. Bayern Munich, Manchester United on Wednesday night. But all of the European action covered. Busy day of sport tomorrow on 5 Live from 12 o'clock. 5 Live's Premier League Sunday features Bournemouth against Chelsea, Everton against Arsenal. But the live sport isn't finished tonight yet, because on Sports Extra from 8 o'clock you will hear the Rugby Union World Cup match between Ireland and Tonga live from Nantes. But Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton will keep you up to date with that during the course of 606 08 085 909 693 to book your call to speak to Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton, who will be here with you on 5 Live after the news with Stuart Clarkson.
Juliet Ferrington is with Eddie Howe.
It was everything that we were last year. And I think from wins like that, you build confidence, and hopefully then the spark that was maybe missing today comes back.
The spark from the penalty spot being Callum Wilson, although he did have that goal disallowed moments before in the build-up. I just wanted to get your take on that, because you could look at it and think, did he foul the keeper? But then on a second look, you could look and think, well, did the keeper foul him?
Well, I've got no idea, to be honest. I just saw a melee of bodies. I didn't see the detail, so I need to watch the goal back, or the non-goal back. The penalty was similar. I mean, I had a better view of that, where I thought the goalkeeper took Anthony out. I thought that was, and I had no real opinion on the other penalty that was given that was turned around. So quite a lot of incident around their goal, but probably we were lacking in clear-cut chances today. But that's why I was really pleased with the defensive display.
Was there much to be concerned about on that losing run that you were on? I know people have been looking at AC Milan, the fans have, probably the players would like to, but obviously you tried to keep focused on what you're doing domestically, but now you can look ahead to that match in the San Siro.
Yeah, I think for me it's very much, I think when you're preparing for a game, it's very much looking at just your next opponent, and the process is always the same. So it's making sure we're competitive in the game, making sure we know what we're doing, making sure we execute our game plan right, and I think that's regardless of opponent. So we'll look forward to the challenge of AC Milan. We know it's been there. I'm sure everyone's excited. We are, and we want to give a good account of ourselves, but we had to try and win today and build momentum in our Premier League season, and it was a vital win.
And did you feel amongst the fan base that you had to calm the nerves down a little bit with a performance and a win today?
Well, I think, when you're managing a club this size, that you have to win. It's part of the DNA here, and we want it to be part of the DNA, so there's the expectation to do that, whilst keeping your cool and keeping calm and not overreacting, because you can become overly emotional and that doesn't really help. So we've tried to get the balance right. We know we're going to have difficult moments. Nothing ever runs smoothly, but it was a great response from the players today.
Are you looking forward to Tuesday? Are you excited?
I am, in my own strange way. I'm not going to be jumping and doing somersaults, but I'm excited from a football perspective. I'm excited from a prestige perspective. I'm excited for our supporters and the players as well, because we know we're going to travel in great numbers. We know they're going to make great noise, and we want to try and inspire them.
Good luck on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Juliet. Sorry we didn't hear the whole interview. Just didn't quite. Why? I don't know. The sound wasn't up. But listen, Juliet was a great interview. But I'm not sure the sound was up.
We didn't hear the first part of it.
But it was a great interview.